What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Gloves Off Podcast with James McSweeney and myself, Evil Eddie, for episode number 11. Kicking off the new year here in 2019, almost 2020, I can't even believe it. 25 years of the sport with the UFC, and we got to witness a lot of great things. But now it's set for a new era. We have a lot to discuss on today's podcast. We got James McSweeney here. What's going on, James?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, guys. Happy New Year to everybody, and it's a new start, alright? So it's start to get things moving.
I know you got a lot in the works right now between the new movie that's coming out with you and, upcoming fights that are going to be going on this year. But the biggest thing that people are talking about are some of the upcoming fights. It seems like this year there's been a lot that's going on with a lot of, I guess you can call them super fights, I guess, between TJ Dillashaw and Henry Cejudo. You're seeing a lot of double champ fights, and DC may be retiring. There's a lot to look forward to. But before we hop into all the hot news, how did you spend your Christmas and New Year's, man? Because I had a great New Year's, and we'll get into that. But how'd you spend your New Year's?
My Christmas is always with the family. I always stay home with the family on Christmas, and then my daughter, we do the whole Christmas thing, so which is always the best for me. And then New Year's, just went to some friends' house. They have children as well, so the kids are all playing up until night. Just a few drinks, listen to music, and just saw the New Year in. And then, to be honest, I was in bed by about 12:30, so it was nothing crazy for me. Took my daughter home, put her to bed, and then I hit the sack as well, and just back to another normal day.
So yeah, I was actually at PFL for at Madison Square Garden. It was really nice.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
It was awesome seeing a lot of these fighters go out there and get to make $1 million. I mean, I wish more promotions had money like that.
Who was the heavyweight winner in the end?
Oh man, it was Josh Copeland going up against a light heavyweight. What was his name? Silas, I think his last name was. Big underdog. Josh Copeland, I think, used to train with him, right?
That's right. He used to train out in Denver. God, this is probably on the verge of 9 years ago. He was training with us out there. When did he win the fight? How did he go on?
It's really weird, and maybe you can give some insight into it. I don't know if it was nerves going into this fight, but Josh Copeland, I mean, we've seen it, like, his style where he puts his head down, he pushes forward with those big, heavy shots, but it seemed like, it was a 5-round fight, and he wasn't holding his hands up a lot, and it just seemed like he gassed out really quick. I didn't really understand, the game plan there with what was going on.
What gym was he training? What gym was he coming out of,
I believe he's still in Denver. Denver.
He's still Grudge?
Yeah, training alongside Justin Gaethje and all them over there.
Yeah, that's probably. I mean, I don't know about the Justin them guys, but Josh was there Grudge when I was there with Trevor Whitman. Trevor Whitman was the coach. I won't get into Trevor, but yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, Josh was always a very nice kid, a nice guy, and I haven't seen him fight for many, many years. So I can't talk about how he is today. I may talk about how he was 8 or 9 years ago. And a lot of people changed back then. I mean, back then I was just starting MMA really myself, so on the UFC scene. So I was very minimal with my groundwork of wrestling as well. But Josh was always a nice kind of kid, and a big softie in the gym. And to be honest, he was on the early stages back then, but he always had a bit of a cardio issue. He was always a bit of a thicker guy, a heavier guy, if you like. Wasn't in the best of shapes. Technical, but yeah, again, this is 8 or 9 years ago. He wasn't very good back then. I haven't seen him today, so to make a comment on how he is today would be kind of a bit outlandish for me. But I mean, if you're fighting for $1 million, and I mean actually $1 million check at the end of that fight, there's no excuse not to be in shape, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing about PFL. I think they did an amazing job, putting a lot of money on the line for fighters to go in there, changing things up. Not only that, but it's a new era, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, with ESPN.
But this was in the works, PFL, back in... I was offered that tournament 7 or 8 years ago. They were trying to make this happen 7 or 8 years ago.
With World Series of Fighting, wow.
World Series of Fighting. That's how they officially broke on the scene. So they were going to have a tournament for $1 million, and everyone was going to jump in and try to get it. And then, and of course, at the time I was training with Ray Sefo down in Las Vegas, so I got offered to be in the tournament, but it was, like I said, 7 or 8 years ago. Nothing ever come of it. And then they were looking at just doing the normal shows. They couldn't get the $1 million or whatever the reason was. And then they offered me a fight against Tyrone Spong when he was going to fight, but the money was, for me, it was terrible money for me at the time to fight Tyrone, because I knew what Tyrone would be asking for, and it wasn't what they was offering me. And I was if I was fighting Tyrone in Thai boxing, because he's a bit more apparent in Thai boxing than I have, I'd imagine he would get the lion's share. But I was a UFC veteran, and it was his first ever MMA fight. There was no reason for him to get paid more than me, and they were going to pay him 3 times more than what they was offering me. So I didn't take the fight. And in the end, they got Tyrone to fight some young kid, and they paid him $2,000.
Wow.
And I think he took Tyrone on and I think Tyrone beat him with head kicks or something, like 2 or 3 head kicks. Tyrone got paid, I think it was $35,000 or $40,000, and they paid the kid $1,500. I think it was. He took it on a short notice. But it was really strange. But they've been trying to make this work for a long time. So it's good for the guys out there to actually see the tournaments come around. I mean, $1 million is life-changing money. So it's fantastic. But I'm sure they're not going to put one on every month. It's going to be once a year, I'd imagine at most, because it's a lot of money to come up with and a lot of revenue to come back. And really, it's a great tournament for some guys coming up, because all the major high-level guys are signing contracts, right? UFC, Bellator, ONE FC, KSW, they're all signed up to the hill. So if you're free-floating around that league, it's really the chances you're not really going to fight a top high-level guy. Like, no disrespect to Josh or the other guy, I don't even know who he is. I'm not saying he's not high level, but they're not on the major league scene. Do you know what I mean? They're not in the Premier League of the MMA section. So for them to fight for $1 million, I mean, anyone to fight for $1 million is fantastic. But of course, if you're coming up the ranks and you get $1 million, I mean, that's amazing.
I mean, as soon as we got out literally exactly at midnight. Kayla Harrison, I mean, everyone was just in such bright spirits. And as soon as we got out, we walked out the VIP exit over there. So you had all the fighters and media kind of standing together, and it was raining out. And then here comes Lance Palmer with a big smile on his face, singing, Fat Guy in a Little Coat with the belt on. And there was nothing bothering him. And it's moments like that where you see these guys who have been in the scene for so many years finally get a chance to make a good paycheck, to go home. And on New Year's, it's just such a good...
Well, you deserve it, because it's kind of like the sport owes them something. They're in debt to the sport. Do you know what I mean? The sport's in debt to them. It's like a gambler that's lost, all his money on the table. Eventually to get that money back or to get ahead is fantastic for them. But you just got to then decide what's next. I don't know what's next for Lance, but he's obviously had a lot of fights over the years. And I mean, listen, to anybody gets paid $1 million, geez, that's fantastic. That's why when Conor McGregor was going to get $100 million, like, you're talking about $100 million for an MMA fighter. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So for him to get it in boxing, get it anywhere he can in the fight world, it's actually, that's fantastic. I can't hate on anybody that gets that. So that's absolutely amazing. I'm very happy for him.
And it's taken, like you said, it's taken a long time for this to happen. So I'm sure there's a lot of fighters who are coming at the end of their UFC contract. They're seeing $1 million on the line with, guys that not many people know of. I mean, obviously Lance Palmer, Josh Copeland. There are big names that made it to the finals, but there's a lot of people. That's a lot of money if they're only making $20,000, $30,000 in the UFC.
What we've also got to put into play is, I mean, how is the company affording this? Because I'm not sure they're not getting that in pay-per-view revenues. I don't know if it even was pay-per-view, right? So, I mean, yes, listen, it's a one-off. That's an amazing venture. Is it going to be a consistent venture? I don't know. I really don't know. Is it a good business plan for your business? I mean, they turn over that much money, they can afford to give away $1 million hand over fist. I mean, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult one to choose. I mean, how big was the arena?
It was actually at the Madison Square Garden Theater, which is now called the Hulu Theater. You guys might remember they had the UFC 205 press conference there. It's a theater it's in the same building, but definitely a little bit smaller. However, that place was sold out, packed to the brim. It was going nuts.
How many thousands does it hold?
Not much at all. It's a theater. It's a theater.
Oh, so what, 3,000-4,000?
You know what it kind of reminded me? It's smaller than Mohegan. Yeah, I'd say about 3,000 maybe tops.
But so I'm saying they're not making $1 million on ticket sales. I don't know if they made it on pay-per-view. I mean, it's hard for a company to revenue that. I mean, obviously, great sponsorship would have helped. Either way, that's their issue, and that's what they're dealing with. They obviously know what they're doing as a company. They've got some smart people on the board and running the company, so I'm sure they know what they're doing. I would just be surprised when the next one will be. In my opinion, I don't think it'll be too soon, but who knows?
Well, another huge thing that people are finding out about now, like I said, the ESPN era is now upon us, and a lot of people are a little upset because there's only going to be 4 aired on cable, 4 events for the UFC going to be aired on cable. All the other fight cards are either going to be pay-per-view or on ESPN Plus. Now, we know that the future's upon us, everything's going to streaming, but it can be frustrating for a lot of people out there, which is why I think this year Bellator is going to have a great job. ONE FC is going to be on cable now. PFL, I think those companies, promotions are going to have a better shot of, getting their name out there with this upon us.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about the ESPN for UFC, I think it's a great thing, but I never thought for 1 second they were going to put on every single show on ESPN, you know what I mean? Because it's too much revenue to be lost. I mean, they earn how many millions and millions and millions of pay-per-views. So they weren't going to cut that and just put it all on ESPN for free. So there was always going to be a catch there, right? There was always going to be, they weren't just going to cut that revenue. It's too big. There's always going to be a way they're going to make it back. I think still getting those shows on ESPN is great, but of course that's not as many, and then more going to pay-per-view. So it does open up a lot of boundaries for other shows to come through.
And like you've talked about this before, it's so expensive being an MMA fan. Between you got to get Flow Combat, you got to get DAZN. There's all these streaming platforms that you got to purchase. It could be expensive to be an MMA fan.
Very, very. I mean, I'm surprised that some people. I mean, the amount that it's costing now, and how many shows and how much stuff is being put on. I'm surprised that they still hit the figures they do. I mean, really, on a global side, it's a bit of a struggling economy right now, and people are, obviously people are cancelling nights out or cancelling trips to keep supporting this, which is fantastic on the MMA thing. It's just a shame that I think they're starting to get, in my opinion, a little bit abused as a fan. You know what I mean? Like they get a little bit used. Now you're hooked. Now you're involved. Now you're passionate. Now you've followed it. It's like it's getting more and more expensive as we go along. I mean, what's it going to be 3 or 4 years from now?
So let us know what you guys think about this on Twitter at GlovesOffPod or at McSweeney MMA on Instagram. James, I want to get into the meat and potatoes of what everyone's been talking about this week, because TJ Dillashaw is moving down a weight class to 125 pounds. And if you've been following the MMA scene for a while now, guys, you know that they got rid of the flyweight division. Henry Cejudo, Joseph Benavidez. There's not many guys that are staying around. Cejudo is fighting for the flyweight division. So everyone's asking, what are the advantages and disadvantages of moving down a weight class for TJ Dillashaw? You've done this before in your career inside the UFC.
Yeah, I mean...
Hold on, guys. I think we just lost James. But we're going to get him right back on here right now. Hey, Madonna Mia. Madonna Mia. Always happens. 1 second here, guys. The magic of Skype. Like everyone says. The magic of Skype. Alright, let's get James back in here. Jesus. Bad luck. Bad luck with internet connection. Let's get James back. Have to apologize for that. Here we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Let me just get him on audio, because I feel like that's causing a little bit of lag here. Let's give him a call. It's calling right now. Go through. Come on. Come on. There it goes. Incoming call. Let's answer it. It's just fucking closed. Come on, man. This shit is so fucking annoying. I'm sure James on the other side smashing the phone right now, just like I am. Give me... This is one of the most frustrating things about doing this. Is the shitty, and you pay $100 a month and you can't even get a legit connection. Is it Skype that's just a piece of shit or what? Come on. I'm about to smash my computer right now. Skype sucks, man. Fuck Skype. Fuck Skype. Fuck Skype. Here it goes. Finally. Finally going through. We're back, James. Can you hear me?
Hi, mate, you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are we good? What is going on? James. Ay, ay, ay. You want to see me smack the computer in a second? Come on. Here we go. Finally. Finally. All right, James, you're back.
You just cut off there?
Yeah, it's fucking shitty ass Skype. All right, we're good now, though. So like I was saying, TJ Dillashaw, he's moving down in a weight class here. You've done this before in the past inside the UFC. What's the advantages and disadvantages of doing something like this for TJ?
Well, it's a very difficult thing to do, and to do it successfully is difficult. I mean, first of all, if you're going down a weight class, of course, you're going to be the bigger, smaller guy. But, of course, if you have a hard time cutting weight or doing it the correct way, you can also be the bigger, weaker guy, right? Because you're deplenished quite a bit, which is what's kind of happened to some people. But myself, I was walking around at about 105 kilo, and I was cutting to make 93. So I was losing 25 pounds during fight week, from fight week onwards. So from the Monday, and I'd fight on Saturday. I'd cut usually about 12 pounds the day of the weigh-ins, and then I would rehydrate, and I'd be back up to 104 kilo, and my opponent could be around 95, 96. So I was obviously the bigger light heavyweight. And that's I got some training methods that I was using from the Olympic Training Center in Denver. The wrestlers there, they cut weight. Some of them cut weight the best, in my opinion. And I was using their scenarios for doing that. But yeah, I mean that's the first advantage, is that he's going to be the bigger, stronger guy if it's done correctly.
there is a flip side to that coin where if it's not done correctly, you miss weight, you could be deplenished, you may not hydrate properly. There's a lot of weaknesses to that too. Of course, the other guy could be the smaller guy, but he could be the faster guy, the more agile guy. I mean, there's plus and minus on both ends. It just depends how big Dillashaw is walking around that on a general day.
So who has the mindset there, the more positive mindset in that situation? It would obviously be Henry Cejudo there, but there's also so much pressure as well. If you're Henry Cejudo, I mean, how would you feel? Would you feel like the more positive athlete there?
Well, it's not about being the more positive athlete, but he's got the more easier job to do, right? Because that's just his fight weight. So for him, it's more, he's confident where he doesn't have to change much. His diet can stay the same. He's confident in the fact that he's going to make weight. He's going to feel very energetic. He's going to feel explosive. He's going to have the gas tank. I mean, this is the first time that Dillashaw's going to cut down. I mean, you have to test to see whether the gas tank is going to be there in the later rounds if it chooses to go there. Is he going to hydrate properly, and therefore is he going to keep his explosion and recovery in time? I'm sure at this level they have the very best of the best helping them, working with them. But yet still, you never really know how your body's going to perform the first time you do it under those bright lights. And even when I first did it the first time, it's a very difficult scenario to have. It's very difficult indeed. I did it in Australia. I flew out, and then I had a very long flight to Australia from Las Vegas, and I just held water on the flight, and I was like literally, I think I was about 25 pounds overweight on the Monday.
Now, going through the weight cutting and stuff like that, does that kind of take away from the technical side of getting ready for the fight?
No, not really. I mean, because it's just more about how well you cut weight and what's your game plan. Some people nowadays like to use the hot bath, the Epsom salt bath and stuff like that. Some people, obviously, you're going to deplenish food that week. You're going to cut down your carbohydrates. Some people are water loading. Some people are cutting back. There's many, many ways, and everyone's going to say their way is the right way. Maybe it's the right way for their body type or their mental attribute. For me, it was always the sauna. I always like to do the sauna, but everyone's different. But yes, it's not going to take away from his attribute of technique or focus for the fight, but he has got a lot more to deal with. He's got a lot more concern. He's got to concern himself about the weight. He's got to concern himself how he feels. He's got to concern himself with his hydration. He's going to concern himself with that. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's had a couple of test runs already to double check that he can get down there, and that in itself is very draining.
I mean, just to explain to people how dangerous it is. I mean, we're obviously bigger guys. You're a giant, but you got these guys 135, 125 pounds. That's, cutting it really close to what your body can and cannot handle. How does your body feel going through something like that?
Of course, you're talking about people that are superior athletes, and you're actually not losing, you're just losing water from the muscles. So, yeah, I mean, the smaller you are, the harder it is because the less muscle mass, right? I mean, a bigger guy like myself, I had a lot more water to lose, and I generally sweat quite easily, so that wasn't a problem. But yeah, some of the smaller guys, they can't do them kind of numbers. So it's extremely dangerous. People have died. This is why they're trying to get out of the sport, cutting weight, and they've stopped people from IVing after now, because they don't want them to cut that much and then hydrate and then be at an advantage. And these are things that's taken place in the UFC, and they're trying to stop people from hydrating with IV bags. I think that's dangerous as well, because people are still going to cut the same amount of weight. They just cannot now use an IV to hydrate as quick. This is a very dangerous game because, as you know, kidney failure, liver shutdown, people have had all kinds of breathing attributes and collapsed. If it's done the wrong way, I mean, it's done the right way, it's toxic and dangerous on the body. It's not right? You're not meant to lose this amount of weight in this short period of time, that amount of water. You're putting your body in a state of dehydration, like if you're stuck out in the Sahara Desert. You're putting yourself in a place where your body's just depleting off all the water it's got in its body under high temperature, and effectively you're losing a ton of weight. Put the water back in, you're getting back up there. But it's very toxic on the body, and it's very dangerous.
So now, for people out there that don't know what you meant about the IV, IV water to be rehydrated. Why did they take that away from the fighters? What were the reasons there?
Well, the reasons they took it away originally was because they were concerned about so many people cutting high amounts of weight. So they were trying to get everyone to be bestly cutting weight rather than, having to do it and then hydrate and they could put more. It was kind of scaring the athlete. So if you're normally cutting 12 or 15 pounds and you have an IV or two after you've cut weight, you're putting the water directly back into the vein. You're hydrating as well as eating and drinking at the same time. But they stopped that and they proved that they can test you to see that you've hydrated or you've used IV bags. So therefore, what they're trying to do is, on paper, is trying to scare the athlete into not cutting that much weight because he cannot sufficiently hydrate. But that's only if athletes listen, right? I mean, we all know how stubborn we can be sometimes, and if it's an advantage, can we take it? Not that they're taking IVs, but are they still going to cut the same amount of weight? Probably. Are they going to try to, hydrate different ways with food and drink and try? Probably. But in my opinion, the danger's still there. I'm
sure through the years you've heard a lot of, old wives' tales and stuff to lose weight. I remember one of the season of Ultimate Fighter, they had one guy that was talking about, I think it was a season with BJ Penn, where they were doing like where they stick it up their ass and all the water comes out. They flush it out and stuff like that. Is that still legal or no?
I don't know if people are doing that. If you really think about it, how much shit are you storing up your ass?
Yeah.
How constipated are you? Your gland coming out can carry so much. So if you were constipated for days and days on end, maybe that's an issue. Maybe you need to do that. I know some fighters that have done it just for pure health reasons. I don't see the benefit in doing that whatsoever. To say you're going to lose weight, that's like, okay, you lost an ounce. you lost 10 ounces. Not even a pound. Geez.
Might as well shave your head.
If you're really that problem, if you really have that much of a problem, you're down to those minimal sweats, then you're doing something wrong, in my opinion. People do now sauna, steam rooms. I'm not the biggest fan of the steam room for doing it. They use Epsom salt baths, and then they wrap themselves in towels. You see them lay on the floor like a mummy, and they got a woolly hat on. All you see is their eyes, and they're wrapped there for long, long periods of time. My personal cut weight method was, I always thought I liked the sauna. I would put the sauna suit on. I would get on a bike with all baby oil on me first before I put the sauna suit on. I'd get a good sweat on the bike, get my system open, and then I'd go in the sauna and I'd get it done, and I'd do it in rounds. I'd do 5-minute rounds in the sauna, 5 minutes in, 3 minutes out, 5 minutes in, 3 minutes out.
What are you guys supposed to do when you stop sweating? Don't you reach a point where there's just no more water left?
This is the danger. This is what happens. I'll explain it to some guys that don't know. So if you could think, my method that I was taught was, if you could think of your body as like a car engine. A car engine temperature rises, right? So the water inside the car gets hot as the engine's working. The fan cuts in and pumps colder air or colder water round the engine to cool the engine. Then the fan cuts out once the engine's cooled. The engine gets hotter, fan cuts in, and again and again and again. I've always used that method. So I'd go in the sauna for 3 minutes, stay active. I would sit down for 2 minutes. So that's a 5-minute round, and then I would come out, just sit down and lay down for 3 minutes. Sometimes I'd put an ice pack on my head or on my heart or wherever I was feeling pretty hot. But it was just get the sweat going, and I'd just lay there and let the sweat come out on its own. Then I'd go back in the sauna. Once I did 8 to 9 5-minute rounds, I always knew I'd done about 12 to 15 pounds in water. Wow. So then I would, after about 6 rounds, I would completely sweat out until it almost stopped, take my sauna suit off, dry off, jump on the scales and see where I was at. It gives me a little bit of time to have a break from the sauna, because after 30, 40 minutes, you're pretty much sick of the place. You want a little break. And then I'd say, okay, I've got 2 pounds left. Okay, right, let's go. And I'd dig my teeth, oil back up, sauna suit back on, get the sweat going, and crank out another 2 rounds, and out I would come. Now, that was the most safest method for me, and I never had any issues, touch wood. And other people I've seen, and I've seen have big issues, is what they've done is they've just stayed in the sauna consistently for like 30, 40 minutes, no break, no rest. Well, what you're subconsciously doing is you're saying, as yet again, going back to the car scenario, is you're saying, okay, the engine's getting hot, the fan needs to kick in, but because you're not getting out of the sauna and the sweat is not working, which the sweat is a coolant, right? It's meant to cool your body down. The sweat's not working. Eventually, it just shuts down. So therefore, your body gives up sweating. It will sweat for 20, 30 minutes consistently, and then eventually it will just stop. And then you overheat. And then the fluid on your brain starts to get very hot. The heart starts to get hot. The blood starts to thicken. And that's why you start seeing people having kidney and liver failure and shutting down and passing out and all these other things, terrible migraines and all these things. So for me, the best way it was 5 minutes in, 3 minutes out. 5 minutes in, 3 minutes out. Therefore, my body was always slightly cooling down. I'd go back into the heat. My temperature would raise, the sweat would kick in again, as if the body is forcing the body to say, by sweating, your body's cooling down, it's working. But really it's not, it's because I'm getting out for 3 minutes and I'm going back in again. So I'm kind of tricking the body to make it sweat and sweat and sweat and sweat and sweat. And that was my method that I used the later part of my career when I fought at light heavyweight.
Now, after you go through a weight cut like that, you have 24 hours pretty much to regain the weight. What are the best ways to do that? Which ways did you use to practice getting your weight back healthy?
Back then, the IV wasn't illegal, so I used to use the IV. I would, as I was at the IV was in my arm, I would be eating sweet potato mash, and I would be just like, that's the thing. You can't, like, even though you're so hungry and you're so thirsty, you can't just gulp a load of drink and a load of food and just, because your stomach just goes and just stops. You can't eat it. So you got to consistently eat, small but often. For me, my first thing would be coconut water or any kind of electrolytes. My IV would be going in, and I would eat sweet potato mash. A, because it was easy to digest and it was a great carbohydrate. I remember when I cut weight in Australia, I made 93. I had my IV bag and I had some sweet potatoes, and it was about an hour and a half later. I went downstairs. I forgot my band I'd get my ticket, my band for my cornerman or something. And as the doctor was there with the scales, I said, "Oh, can I just jump on the scale, please?" And he said, "Yeah, jump on." And I got on. I was 102.
Wow!
But I just made 93 2 hours ago, kilo. So I just made 205 pounds, and I was 221.
Wow!
An hour and a half later, and he just looked at me and he said, "Get off the scale." He said, "Get back on." So I got back on, and he just looked at me and said, "I don't know what you've done, but you're doing something right." And I just laughed, patted him on the back, and off I went. But yeah, that would be the way we would do it, and it would just take, you know, a few. I could pretty much get back to my starting weight within 12 hours. Before I went to bed that night, I would be hydrated and fully good, and I could tell I was fully hydrated because my urine, my pee would be clear, so it wouldn't be like a dark yellow color like it was if it's, you know, struggling. Or dehydrated.
I'm glad that you went through that, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't understand or don't give enough respect to a lot of the fighters that go through this weight cutting aspect, especially some like 125 pounds. If you're not used to it, man, that could be really dangerous. So big props to TJ Dillashaw. Now moving on with the show, let's jump.
It's a very tough thing to do, and unfortunately people only hear the negative stories about cutting weight, and they are negative and it's very dangerous, but people should give it a lot more respect. But fair play to TJ. It's hats off to him. I hope he stays safe.
And we're going to be talking about that fight in the next show. So let's move on with the next topic here, which is something that everybody was going back and forth on. You brushed on it just a little bit before the fight happened with Mayweather. Did you get to watch that fight? And did you see what people were saying about it? Because they were saying that it was fixed. Did you see that, or what are your thoughts?
They're saying it's fixed. I don't know if it was fixed. You know what? And I thought the punch that caught him, dropped him, it was a clear punch. Mayweather hits hard. He's knocked out a bunch of people. It makes me cringe a little bit, really, because Mayweather, it gets a bit of a bad rap. As a person, I've met him and I've actually been to his house. I'm not the biggest fan of him, let's put it straight. As a person, I think he's a bit, a certain way. But as an athlete, you cannot say nothing negative about the guy. In the other words, he was very aggressive in his younger days. He knocked out a lot of people. Everyone knows now as he's there for the shoulder bump and he's very elusive. You can't hit him. He's got smart. His distance and everything else. But you're forgetting he knocked out a lot of high-level good people and was super, super aggressive. It was only a 5-round fight, which, with all due respect, Mayweather, that's a warm-up. He came out super aggressive. He pushed the pace, which is not what he usually does. Most of his fights, unless he's knocked him out, he goes the distance and outpoints everybody. He knew as well as I do. Anybody that steps out of their realm, and I'll say it one more time, anybody who steps out of their realm and goes and fights a professional boxer of that caliber will lose. MMA fighters won't beat a professional heavyweight boxer. A kickboxer will not beat a heavyweight boxer. If on the K1 world, it's different. They hit extremely hard. They've spent the whole of their career just concentrating on two limbs, whereas ours is distributed between many different attacks. And just as well as a boxer coming over to K1 or coming over to MMA would also get destroyed, like James Toney did against Randy Couture. So anybody that steps out of that realm, if Randy Couture fought James Toney in boxing, James Toney would have knocked him all around the place. So yeah, I didn't take it too seriously. Did it look like it was set up to me? No, I didn't think it was a fake. I just thought, to be honest, Mayweather just showed his class and caught this guy, young kid, and he big brothered him. He almost gave him a little pat, and the guy was there crying, and he just said, don't worry, son, you'll be okay. You'll be all right. You've earned a good payday for today. And which is really what it was. Mayweather went there and earned $9 million.
Honestly, I think that was huge for Rizin. I was really surprised when they signed this fight. I think you were too. Everyone was. No one thought this was going to happen.
No. I mean, that's a great attribute for them. And in my opinion, even not having it on TV, for the high-level people of Japan that they had it for as an exhibition, it obviously made a lot of money.
Let us know what you guys think. Let us know what you guys think down below here in the comments. Moving forward, James, let me know if you think this is fair and how you would deal with this. In this new era of mixed martial arts, it's so clear to a lot of people that it's turning into an entertainment business. The UFC is pushing for fighters to go on social media more, go promote the fights more, get people excited about it. Colby Covington has gone out there, and yeah, he has been the heel. People have been booing him. He's been, he's needed security in certain countries. He's pissing off people in the heavyweight division. He gets the interim title. Now that should secure your spot as the #1 contender, correct?
Yes, of course. If he stepped in and took the interim title, of course. But as we know, this is a combat sport, and there's a lot of politics to be had in this game. This is not as cut and dry as everyone thinks.
So, do you think they should get rid of the rankings? How do you think they should actually go about this moving forward in the future? Because clearly this isn't working out. We're seeing eighth ranked fighters go up against champions, and sometimes it's amazing. But a lot of the fans get really upset.
I just never took the ranking system. Too much to heart, to be honest. Everyone seems like, yeah, he's ranked number 2 in the world, he's ranked number 3 in the world. But this is a fight business, and in a fight business, anyone can win on any given day. And at that level, anyone can win on any given day. And yes, he's beaten X amount of people to work his way up to a certain number. But I honestly don't believe people should take it as in if you get to the #1 spot, it's obvious that you deserve a title shot, right? You've got up there. That's it. Did the #1 spot certify that? No, probably not. It certified it because the last 3 victories you had against 3 world-class people and the way you won it. You know what I'm saying? So that's been more for me. But I understand for the everyday fan that doesn't really. That's a great guideline to follow. I just wouldn't hold it to, and for exactly this reason, I wouldn't hold it to oath, because it's just a guideline. people are making that as if like he's number 2 or he's number 3. When he beats such a, he must get the belt. Well, unfortunately, yeah, in everyday life, that's kind of how 3, 2, 1 works, right? But as we also know, you know, there's been a lot of politics in sport, a lot of politics, and Colby is he's not the most easiest to get on with guy by the sound of it. He's not the people pleaser of. He's not the, you know, he's not the company champion, is he? You know, he like, you know, and everyone, they're struggling with it. And then of course now he's like calling out Dana White and saying you ain't got the balls to fire me. You know, this and that. This is dangerous games you're playing. Dangerous games.
Yeah, man.
I earn too much money for you not to hear. I mean, he ain't the first person to say that and then get blackballed from the company.
Oh, yeah.
Tito Ortiz said that before too, right? I mean,
came out in the T-shirt and everything. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have said, you know, or if you look through the rankings, that have tried to be bigger than the UFC as an athlete. The UFC are nothing without me and this and that. And then what happens? You know, they lose. UFC continues and finds another one, and they build another one. I mean, even to respect. I mean, even Conor McGregor. I mean, of course, he was saying, you know, I'm the biggest payday. I am the UFC. I own the UFC. Great. That was all in his speech and all the rest of it. Now he's lost. It's very quiet, right? Now they've moved on to John Jones again.
Yeah. And we're going to
John Jones is going to be the new poster boy, and then, you know, they're going to pick through him, and they've cleaned up his. They've even like, they've done such a good job. They've made people forget. They've made people forget, and almost even turn on someone like, you know, the other light heavyweight champion. What's his name? Sorry.
Woodley. Woodley.
No, light heavy.
Light heavyweight champion is
light heavy and heavy. He owns 2 belts.
Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier has both belts right now.
Okay, sorry, Daniel Cormier. DC. Sorry, DC. They've even turned the people a little bit off DC, who's the most clean-cut image guy that works on the podium. He works on the desk. He works at the fire. He's like he was, you know, the clean-cut image. They've done such a good job on John promoting him. They've even made people turn on DC. So you're never bigger than the company, my friend. Never.
And obviously, like you said, the UFC is always going to find their next big star, but it's got to be so crushing if you're Colby Covington and you follow all the guidelines. You get the interim title, and I feel like everyone really understood that in the era that we're in right now.
Did he follow the guidelines? Did he really follow the guidelines? I mean, he did some pretty outlandish stuff out there as an athlete, right? I mean, he did some pretty stupid things and said some really stupid stuff. And at the end of the day, there's one thing about putting yourself out there on social media, creating a business for yourself, and then there's one thing just being a complete and utter dick about it. You know what I mean? Like, he abused pretty much every Brazilian on the planet, and then went to the police when one slapped him in the mouth. I mean, you know, it doesn't. You know, it doesn't fit well. I don't think there was a person alive who didn't say, well, you deserve that, didn't you? You know, you can't abuse a nation of people and think that one of them's not going to come along one day and slap you for it. And then you go to the police and you deserved it. I mean, geez, yeah, he made some mistakes. You know, you can't say, but now it hasn't gone his way, he wants to cry about it. In my opinion, I don't warrant that.
And honestly, man, it just seems like Usman, he's on a 9-fight winning streak in one of the toughest divisions. I wish they just matched up Usman versus Colby Covington moving forward instead of having Tyrone take on Usman.
Yeah, I think so. But also Tyrone does, you know, he's a great athlete. He's been around a long time. He's done a lot of good things in the right way. I mean, he's handled victories. He's handled losses. I mean, you know, you can't take something away from Tyrone either. I just think the fact of the matter is, the sun shines on everyone at some point. You can't. What happens is people that get a little bit egotistical, like Kobe, for example, just thinks the sun should only always be on their side consistently, 24 hours a day. They want all the attention, no matter what. I mean, he's a little bit of a carbon knockoff of Conor. I think that he's trying to follow the Conor, and you know, I mean, I just don't see it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a very talented athlete, a good fighter. I just think that if he just toned it down a little bit and just played a little bit easier, but he's now made his bed, he's got to lay in it, and now he's embracing it, and it's just I just don't think it's going to turn out well for him.
And to go along with this topic right here, we had a fan question from Scott Kennan on Twitter who says, James, do you think that they should put a new system in place for rankings since people like GSP, Connor, and Nate Diaz stay in the top 10 even though they aren't active a lot?
Yeah, I do believe that. I do think they should. But then again, this is what I'm saying about the rankings in general. When you have somebody like Nick Diaz, for example, I mean, the last time he fought, 3 years ago?
Yeah, to that beginning of 2015, I believe, 16 against Silva.
It's about going on 4 years now, right? Because let's just start at 2019. So let's say 3.5 years. Now, Nick is an amazing fighter. I'm not taking nothing away from Nick. He has the reasons why he hasn't fought in the last few years, and he's looking for his deal. He's looking for the big fight, and he's earned to do whatever he wants to do, in my opinion. But if fighters are staying busy and relevant, I think it should be over a 2-year period. You know, because you can't take a ranking system dead to oath and serious if you do have people in it that fight once every 3 years.
Well, it seems like Nick Diaz, he keeps trying to come back, and a big dangerous part about that is when he says he's coming back, he's talking about people like Jorge Masvidal, who are in the top 5, which was probably not the best idea if you've been out for that long.
Yeah, but you say that, but then we've seen Nick come out there and fight the number 1 in the world and finish him and show no ring rust whatsoever. So I just think, you know, I mean, we're talking now, Nick Diaz, Dana. I heard a rumor that Dana White offered Mayweather to fight Nick Diaz.
Ooh.
I think it was $250 million.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing about the Diaz brothers. They always stay active, whether they're doing triathlons. They're always staying.
The guys are absolutely ridiculous with their work ethic. They train every day, all the time. They're teaching, they're training, they're doing whatever they're doing. They're having wars with each other, wars with everyone. They're up in Big Bear doing their work. They're ready to go at any given time. They've got that, you know, that attitude where they don't really give a fuck. They'll fight anyone on any given day. And just like most fighters, to be honest, records are for DJs. We don't really give a shit about records. I mean, even just to the point now, this is how the records was. I fought Daniel Ilonga, the K1 veteran. On paper, he was ranked number 3 in the world. And on the K1 world, I'm not in the top 30 or whatever because I haven't fought K1 consistently for over 10 years. But then I go and knock him out. So now where does that put me? Puts me at number 2 in the world. But I'm not signed with Glory. I'm not signed with the biggest organization in the world, but I'm number 2 in the world in K1. How did that work? So you can't really take records for, you know, and on paper then if he was so high on the record status and I was so low, how did I beat him? You know, so records aren't really for fighters. Records are really more for people to keep track and just a rough guideline to have a look. Please don't hold it as oath. You're going to upset yourself. Or why is he doing this and why is he getting that? You know, it's just not going to work out good for that person if that's what they think. So it's just best just to see it for what it is and let it be what it's about. Just let them know the fighters don't care about records.
And I think you answered that the best way possible. So, Scott, I hope that you appreciate the way that was answered. Let us know what you guys think about this down below. Now, moving forward, we got 2 quick things to go through. I wanted to ask you if there was anything that we missed on The Ultimate Fighter, or what was a funny moment that you've had in one of your fights that you could share with us.
Well, there's one about The Ultimate Fighter that was always funny. And it was funny because I don't know what made me think about it the other day. But I think I was thinking about Kimbo Slice the other day. Just someone, I think I heard it somewhere or read somewhere, and I just saw something about Kimbo, and it made me think about it. And there was just maybe a lot of people didn't know this, but the guy used to always carry his mouthpiece in his pocket. He always had his mouthpiece on him. One of the first times in the house I saw him, and he always had his hand in his pocket. And I just watched it, I thought, why's he got his hand in his pocket all the time? Why do I see his pocket? And then after a couple of days of, you know, we got more familiar, and everyone started to relax around each other because we had to coincide, right? The first day or two, everyone's still on edge and everyone's a bit jumpy until you realise who you can trust, who you can't trust, and who you like and who you don't like. So like 2 or 3 days in, I think we was all just chatting away, and I say, Kimbo, what's in your pocket? And he said, what's that, bro? I said, what's in your pocket? You've had your hand on your pocket for 3 days. What's in your pocket? And he pulled out his mouthpiece. And I said, what the fuck are you carrying your mouthpiece for? And he said, he put it in his mouth like that, and he had gold teeth, right?
Yeah,
gold teeth,
the grills.
Yeah, right? So he put the mouthpiece in, and he said, because you never know, James, you never know. And he popped his mouthpiece in, and he said, it could pop off at any given time. And he pulled it out, and he went, these fuckers are expensive. I don't want to lose them.
Well,
he put it back in his pocket.
He was a big target.
It just made me laugh because everyone started laughing, and it was just like, it kind of just broke the ice. I think it was a memorable thing that actually broke the ice. And I just thought, I like this guy, he's funny, I like it. And he didn't say it in an arrogant or mean way. He just said it as a joking way. It could pop off at any moment and just put it in his mouth. And I was like, fucking hell. And I said, you carry it around on the street with you as well? He said, yep. Every day on the street, I've always got my mouthpiece on me. He said, these are too expensive to lose.
I mean, he's walking in there with a big target on his back. I'll never forget watching the debut and him walking out and seeing your guys' reaction. But at the end of the season, we realized that he was probably the friendliest guy on that entire show.
Oh, listen, I mean, we all believed in the hype. None of us liked him because the UFC put a massive target on his back when they walked in because, he's the guy, he's that one person. And I remember Brendan Sharp's reaction. I think I was standing next to Brendan or close to Brendan, and I said it kind of a very similar thing in my mind, like, fuck this guy or whatever. And Brendan said it out loud. He went, fuck that guy. That made me laugh. And I remember looking at him, we kind of just laughed, smiled at each other, we laughed. And I think if you actually go back to watch it, you actually see him kind of mouth it under his breath. And they put the subtitles. But it was real funny. Yeah, he was brought on for us not to like him, but you couldn't help but like the guy. He was very good around the house. He kept himself very clean. He always cooked on the barbecue, so amazing steaks and sauces, barbecue sauce, and a honey mustard sauce he used to put on his steak, and this glaze. And he was so passionate about that. And he would talk about his children. He would never sleep in a bed. He would only sleep on the floor.
Really?
And yeah, he never slept on a bed the whole time we were there. He just put his blanket on the floor. He slept on the floor. There was beds there. He wouldn't sleep on them.
That's gotta be awful for your back.
Yeah, but he said for his back he had to. His back was bad. He liked a hard mattress. It wasn't hard enough. He'd sleep on the floor. But you know what? I couldn't help but like the guy. I really couldn't help but like the guy. And I'm not saying that guy. I only say I couldn't help but like him because, of course, at one stage we were possibly going to fight in the house. When Matt Michioni was playing his city games, and so. You can't really get too close to anybody because at any given day you could fight with any one of them, and you don't want to carry around too many nice attached feelings because it does make the job harder. Are you really going to go for the kill if you know the story, if you really are friendly and too much? Yeah. But you couldn't help but like his character. You couldn't help it. I really liked the guy, and when he passed, I felt very sad about that, to be honest. I felt very sad for his family, his children, everyone that knew him. And also, just for the loss, he was a good guy, good athlete, was willing to learn, complete opposite of what you see on TV or what people pay him out to be. But he knew how to promote himself. He was making millions of dollars, and promoted himself very well for someone who had minimal talent. He was very game to fight anybody, but even he would say, "I'm not a martial artist. I just know what I know, and I'm trying to learn more." He said, I shouldn't even be here. And he would ask questions like, "Oh, James, how'd you throw the low kick?" And he would ask different people. He would ask Roy Nelson and wrestling and jiu-jitsu questions. He was just willing to learn, and he was just a good guy.
Honestly, what did you guys think was going to happen when they matched him against Roy Nelson? What were you guys expecting?
I knew Roy was going to take him down and finish him, to be honest, because Roy is a smart guy. He's a veteran. He's been around a long time. Why go 50-50 and have a punch slugfest? KIMBO was more athletic than Roy. Roy's got a super good chin, but KIMBO can hit fucking hard. They've both got a ton of experience. Where does KIMBO have no experience? On the ground. So where does Roy have the most? On the ground. So it was almost like it's just how he was going to get him there. Do you know what I mean? Because Roy is not the most athletic, as in he ain't going to shoot in real fast and get a double leg and slam you like a Division I wrestler. KIMBO was very athletic and become an ex-football player and stuff like that. So he had good footwork and he could move. The only thing that was going against KIMBO at the time was he had bad knees. So he wasn't as mobile as he used to be. So eventually Roy got the body clinch and took him down and got the crucifix, and that was all she wrote.
Even after that moment, he was just so into learning from Rampage and going to practice, it seemed like. But I remember that moment when you walked in the bedroom, you're like, Kimbo, we're probably going to fight, man. Like, Kimbo was psyched about it. He was all for it.
No, he was excited to fight for sure. But he also knew, because we would talk about it, and we would say, listen, you know, me and Brendan Sharp had a deal. We were never going to fight each other unless it was in the final. We had that deal from day one. No one's going to make us fight each other unless we're in the final. So that wasn't going to happen. And then with Kimbo, the way things were looking out, it was looking like once he was out of all the people they were going to get to replace Mitrione and give a second chance, of course they bring the biggest pay-per-view follower. Do you know what I mean? The biggest person who has the most following. So, I mean, what would have hit bigger headlines if Kimbo would have come back and got a second chance in the Ultimate Fighter show? So that would have hit the ratings. So we all knew that. So once I saw Matt was fucking around he was laying in the closet. He wouldn't even come out for days. He laid on the closet floor, and after he fought Scott Junk, he took a bit of a beating during the fight, and he said he wasn't fit to fight. He got right. He called the medic and all sorts to come to him. Medic said there was nothing really wrong with him at the time. He said he was overheating and dehydrated. So the doctor said, okay, we'll give you an IV. You know, do you want to go home? He said no. So they let him stay, and then he eventually got the chance to fight. But at the time, we thought he wasn't going to. I went and saw Kimbo and said, listen, man, you know, we're probably going to fight. So I was kind of just giving him a heads up that I'm not going to be friendly as I have been now until after the fight, you know. So I wasn't going to sit around and have chats like we were doing before or be all cool with each other, because I've got to mentally prepare now to fight someone who I actually like.
It's funny because if you guys go back and watch James, you're actually like a step ahead of everybody with knowing what was going on, like what was going through people's minds, especially with like Matt. Like you were onto his game, what he was doing, whether he was or not doing that. It really seemed like you put the pieces together and be like, this guy's up to something here.
Well, the thing was, I had hardly any MMA experience, right, when I was in the Ultimate Fighter house. So it was very, very minimal for me. So these guys were all veteran MMA fighters. They didn't really come from any other backgrounds. I mean, they're NFL, some of them and so forth, but they all still had 8 or 9 or 10 MMA fights, which I hadn't. So for me, it was more like, I've got to play the street strategy, I've got to play the mental attribute strategy, and I've got to feel people out. And I worked security for 10 years before I was able to quit doing it. So I learned a lot of street mentality, and I learned a lot of how people would conduct themselves and carry themselves, and I was very good at reading people in that respect. So I was using those tools to get me through. Sometimes I was playing games with some people, sometimes I was getting under people's skin. You know, I had to play what I had to play, but to be honest, I was fighting for a career, right? I mean, I was looking for an attribute. People would give me a bit of a hard time about things I did on the Ultimate Fighter show or didn't do or whatever. Some things are edited to look bad, and some things, yeah, I did, but to be honest, it was more to do with what would you do if you had a chance to go and fight in the UFC? Would you just sit back and play fair when no one else was playing fair? Or would you use all the tools you've got in your arsenal to make it work? And that's what I was doing. And I knew from day one, Matt was a mental midget at the time. You know, he would try to bully people in the gym and training, in sparring, then sending subliminal messages, like he'd go a little bit harder than everyone else was doing. And, you know, even when we were drilling, he would try to kick a bit harder or punch a bit harder or whatever. Just trying to, and you say, hey, come on, we're just drilling. Oh, no, I am, I'm going easy, that's me easy. And you're like, that's bullshit. I know I'm a veteran in fighting. I know when someone's going easy, I know when someone's putting a bit of weight behind the punch. He was just trying to get into people's mind, thinking that he was better than he was. So, as soon as I knew I was going to fight him, I literally switched that switch, and I pretty much just put it on him from the beginning. And he was, in my opinion, he was afraid of me. Even when I went into that fight, I mean, if you watch my fight against his and other people's fight with him or after, he didn't perform nowhere near like he would, because he was intimidated by me. He knew that I knew I had his card marked.
So honestly, guys, James McSweeney went through that season and with a lot of big names, Justin Wren, Rampage Jackson. That was definitely one of the best seasons. But I was so upset that Big Baby went in there, and I was really excited for the Matt Mitrione versus Big Baby showdown there, and Matt definitely showed up. And now look where Matt is. It's crazy how he evolved.
That's what I'm saying. Look, I mean, Big Baby had a very good jiu-jitsu, brutally strong guy. He always suffered with concussions because he had a lot of NFL concussions. He had a bit of a weak chin. But the guy was super strong and aggressive. And if you even saw when he turned on Matt Mitrione in the house, when he got mad at him, it's the most watched thing on YouTube, right? It was like he was going to eat him. He was so mad. He wanted Matt to just make one little move and he was going to smack the shit out of him. Matt just shit himself. Matt was looking anywhere like, is someone going to help me? I was right there. I was sitting literally right there.
He wasn't looking Big Baby in the face.
And for me, I was sitting there thinking, I want to see how this goes. Like, I don't give a fuck. He's not my brother. You know, I don't care who fights here. I just want to see how this goes. I want to see how it plays out. And yet again, I was reading the attributes of both people. And I was seeing Big Baby lost his temper and he was scared of him. No way was he scared of him. But Matt hadn't lost his temper and Matt was in flight mode. He hadn't had a chance to get mad. He hadn't had a chance to bite back. He was too busy thinking, what I do? What have I done?
He had no idea.
And Baby was just fucking just down his throat, like he was just so close to him and towering over him. Matt just wanted to, like, you know, he was like a little kid at school, you know, who was getting bullied, and he was petrified. But when the fight happened, Matt had time to go in on an even playing field, and he confronted his fear. For Big Baby, he had actually gone in there a bit too emotional, you know. And also, I think he blew his load a little bit. Like, he had Matt in a few positions where he could have finished him, and I think he didn't pull the trigger. And eventually Matt escaped, and Matt got the knockout. And I remember going to the hospital because I broke my hand in my fight, even though I knocked out Darryl. I got plates put in my hand. I broke my hand in the first round. I broke my metatarsals in my right hand, so I had to have plates put in. And I remember seeing Big Baby there at the hospital, and I said to him, like, "I'm really sorry, mate. Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah." He was a bit emotional, and he said, "Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just got caught." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I just fucking my chin is not what it used to be." But I mean, he already had a big payoff from the NFL. He was getting paid. He did many seasons in the NFL. He was on a very good retirement fund for them. So I mean, financially, he didn't need it. I know his wife was very upset seeing him get knocked out again. So that's probably why he decided to call it a day. But he was super talented and a really nice guy. Really nice guy. Then, of course, you see Matt go on and do a lot better. But I still believe, I don't think he's got over the mental problems that he suffers from.
I love hearing the stories of the Ultimate Fighter. I'm sure James is going to share more as this podcast goes on in the future. Before we end today's show, it's only right that we give you guys a quick prediction of what we think is going to go down in Jones versus Anthony Smith. James, what do you think is going to go down here? Because Jones, like you said, they're trying to make him a big star. Anthony Smith, he's on a wave of... He's just been taking dudes out left and right. He has this momentum building up, and I feel like he's riding a perfect wave where he can build that confidence up to take on somebody like John Jones. And these two were supposed to fight years ago. It didn't happen because of the car accident or what happened with John. How do you see this fight going down?
I think Anthony Smith is a great athlete, a great fighter. He's, you know, if you look at him, he just looks like the poster boy for MMA, right? He looks like a typical MMA fighter. Like, he's just big, he looks mean, and he's talented, and he's got all the things going for him. But, and there's always a but, right? I don't think we're at the stage where we're looking at John Jones, where we're looking like he's past his best, or I'm ready to see an upset. I don't think he has what it takes to beat John Jones right now, in my opinion. John is come out of retirement, or probably suspension, I should say. We saw him absolutely destroy DC. No sign whatsoever of any ring rust. Then he get popped again. Then he's suspended again. and he's back again and just takes out, another amazing fighter in what seemed very little challenge for him. He destroyed him on the ground in 3 rounds. Everyone's scared to go on the ground with John Jones. If you get in John Jones's guard or half guard or whatever, everyone's scared of his elbows. Everyone's pulling half guard on him or side control. And then that's where he's dangerous. I just don't see how John loses this fight, if I'm honest. I think, in my opinion, John Jones is probably the pound-for-pound best of all time.
Now, when you trained with John when he was really young, when you guys trained together. He just went down to Albuquerque, he just went down to Duke's, right? Went down to Duke's. Jackson, I'm sorry. He went down to Albuquerque, and did you know at that moment this guy was the future? He was going to be the #1 star? Did you know it back then?
I remember sitting around a friend's house, and we watched him fight, and I forget who he fought against. And I won't say the person's name because I've said names before on here, and it's got me into awkward. So I won't say his name. He turned to me and he's like, "Wow, that's..." And I was sitting there with Rashad as well, and they turned around and said, "Wow, he's got to be something one day, right?" And we're like, "Wow, yeah, that's like, that was a performance. Like, he's flashy." But at the time, he was brand new. He was a young kid, 20 years old, young kid. And then, of course, he came to Jackson's, and I got to spar with him. Wrestling-wise, in MMA, if we sparred with MMA, his wrestling was just too high level for me. I was a beginner in MMA. I had minimal jiu-jitsu and wrestling, and not saying even to this day I could catch up with him, but I would have done a better job. But he would just take me down almost at will, and then I'd have to fight my ass off to get back to my feet. But when we would just do kickboxing, he was very talented. But of course, my potentials back then in kickboxing, I read him out really quick. If you gave John Jones space, if you backed off, if you circled off to your right, if you circled to your left, if you didn't pressure him, he got very, very flamboyant, and he got flashy, and then he got dangerous. Very dangerous, because his awareness of distances and angles is like you haven't seen before. It's very smart, very clever, and he's very long than you actually think. You think you're in a safe position, then his big, long, gangly leg comes out, and you're not. And so I worked out very quickly when I'd sparred with him. I had to be almost like on his chest. I'd box like in a post box, so he couldn't get away, and we would just go at it inside. I learned not to give him any distance. Man. That was 10 years ago. Now, on the inside, he's very good with elbows. On the inside, he's very good with his knees. He's beat that clinch. He's very good at tying you up and getting the clinch into his takedown or into a submission. Now he doesn't have that hole anymore. That hole is not there. Great work by Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn and everyone that he works with, Shotgun and everyone else down there. A little weakness that he had, they put a plug in it, and it's no longer there. And he's a dangerous, dangerous human being, from close, from far, from the inside, from the outside, from the left, from the right. The guy is the real deal. And I'm not taking
anything away from Gustafsson, but he made Gus look like easy work compared to the first time they fought.
That's what I was just saying. He made it look like he went out there to finish the fight in 3 rounds, and then did. He didn't like he was looking for the finish. He was like he was going out there to enjoy himself, to get rid of a bit of ring rust, just to get a bit of ring time. He was then, when he thought, okay, enough's enough, time to do my job. And it seemed like, I'm sure it wasn't that exact way, but it seemed that way. And for it to seem that way against a high-level guy like Gustafsson is no joke. So I can't sit here and put anyone against him right now and say, they're going to beat him hands down. Can it happen? Yes, it's a fight, right? Everyone's got a puncher's chance. There's a million ways to win. There's a million ways. Look, you just saw Kat get kicked in an eyeball, in the eye. Oof. The freak of nature of it is unbelievable, right? And she's appealing that right now. So there's things that can happen. But if it doesn't, and it's on paper, I believe John takes the fight, hands down.
Really quick before we end the show, just because you brought that up, do you think that should be considered an eye poke? Or is that, in the rules, that is a fair TKO? But she's appealing it.
It's a TKO. Yeah, it's a TKO. At the end of the day, if she blocked the head kick, it wouldn't have happened. She didn't block the head kick. She pulled her head back, which in my opinion, I don't like it. Muay Thai guys does this in Thailand all the time. They throw their head back like this, let the kick pass. But the danger is, if you haven't made the space, it connects. The fact is, if it was another 2 inches, it would have been the girl's ankle against the top of her head and would have knocked her head off. Luckily for her, it was 2 inches further back, but unluckily for her, it caught her in the eye. But at the end of the day, it wasn't an intentional eye poke. I mean, it was the girl's toe. I mean, what is she, a ninja? She's going to put my toe in your eye? Doesn't happen. It was a freak accident. It was a legitimate kick. She didn't defend it, and she got caught. And I think it's a TKO.
There you go, guys. Bam! James McSweeney with the fire on episode number 11. Guys, that does it for episode number 11. What we like to do is let you guys know if you have anything at all that you want me and James to talk about on the next upcoming episodes. Let us know down below here in the comments. Let us know on Instagram at McSweeney MMA, on Twitter at GlovesOffPod. James, is there anything that you would like to say before we end today's show? What do you got planned for the next 2 weeks here?
I'm in my gym right now. They're just getting everything designed, putting the bags up. I put a speedball up this morning, and I've made a tire bag, and I'm just decorating away. And it's a hot day. I've got a lot of things going on. I've just secured a couple of deals with the local private schools here. So my gym's got to get real ready soon because I've got about 300 kids coming. So we're going to get real busy real fast. So yeah, I've got to really, that's what I mean. Well, I've been working here day and night for the last week and a half with no help. So anyone's listening and you're in Phuket, come down and give me a hand. I hate doing this stuff.
And we got listeners all over the world, James. I like looking at the demographic. We definitely have some listeners out in that area. So if you're out there, hit James up at McSweeney MMA. Guys, I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA. Tune in 2 weeks and hear what me and James got in store. James, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
See you soon, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that does it for episode number 11. Guys, subscribe down below here on YouTube, Podbean, Instagram, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're watching this. And I hope that you guys enjoyed episode number 11. I'm Evil Eddie. Buen knuckles till the end. Behave yourselves.